when should you eat? When should you eat? And the commonest response we get is, oh, you should eat when you're hungry. Well, let's explore this concept called hunger. What is hunger? And I want to explore the concept of hunger in the modern era of nutritional abundance.
Hey everybody, this is something that's been on my mind for a while now. What is true hunger and how do we know if we're hungry? I didn't get to 360 pounds knowing what true hunger is. I ate when I thought I was hungry, but obviously I was eating way too much. So I kind of delved into this, did a bit of research, did a little self-diving and experimentation to actually kind of uncover for myself what it actually is. So the 3 things I want to talk about today is, am I eating too much? The behavior behind hunger and things that I'm using to implement to improve it. Don't forget, I started a locals community. If you want to get more behind the scene contents, cute doggo pictures, things you will not see on YouTube, come and join us, and also a little extra daily inspiration. We are also doing another meetup in May on the 20th in Bellingham, Washington. You can find more information about that on carnivoresme.com. And as always, guys, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's start with, am I eating too much? Initially at 360 pounds, oh yeah, I was eating way too much, right? You know, the thing is weight, fat, extra adipose tissue on our body is consuming too much energy. No, I'm not talking about calories. I'm just talking about food is energy. Extra fat on our body is excess consumed energy. There is a base amount of fat that we need to have just to survive, but I'm talking about morbidly obese, obesity, these kinds of things. From the time I was a kid, I was always taught, eat everything on your plate. Just eat it, Amanda. Learn to eat everything on your plate. And not that my parents intended this, because I think my generation just kind of grew up like this. I learned to eat everything on my plate. Whether I wanted it or not, I ate it. And then I learned emotional eating from my mom. Not that I'm blaming her, but I used to watch her be a size 4 and eat a bag of candy and gain no weight. So as a young child, I learned emotion equals food. Like if I want to control my emotions, I just need to eat something. And of course, the body wants sugar and carbs. Why? Because they're fast fuels. I took those lessons I learned as a kid to heart and applied them to the rest of my life. Ergo, through my teens, 20s, and early 30s, I got extremely overweight. So to answer in that time period, yes, I was eating way too much. So fast forward to doing carnivore. Now I'm eating a high-fat, moderate protein, low to no carb diet. Am I still eating too much? In the beginning, I ate 3 meals a day with snacks, and then I noticed over the weeks, I didn't need snacks. And then over the next few weeks, I really don't need to eat 3 times a day. So I went to 2 times a day. And at some point, I went to 1 time a day. I still oscillate between once and twice a day at this point. However, what's happened is I changed from burning glucose and sugar for fuel to fat adaptation, meaning my body can streamline my own fat from my body for energy. This is what causes the hunger drive to go down. It doesn't have to worry about that constant injection of fuel. So I like using a bridge drink. I learned this from Dr. Sivas. I like putting the LMNT, this is the raw, into my bottle and drinking this all day long because I am now learning that even my stomach grumbles are not a sign of hunger, it's just lack of food in my stomach. Anyways, I like using this because it's got the 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and the 60 milligrams of magnesium. It helps prevent things like muscle cramps, headache, fatigue, all the things kind of with low electrolytes. And I'm so sensitive. I really like especially the raw because it has no fillers, no gluten, no crap in it that affect me from my autoimmune stuff. Don't forget, right now, LMNT is offering a free 8-pack sample pack with any purchase. You just need to go to drinklmnt.com/carnivoresme. That's drinklmnt.com/carnivoresme. Now, here's the thing is, I still haven't talked about what is hunger. And I had to do a lot of personal introspection and, I'm not gonna lie, some Googling, because my hunger signals were grumbling belly. It used to be when I would feel like I was going to faint. This was before carnivore. When I was a diabetic, my glucose levels would drop and I would need to eat because, well, they would drop and I feel like I was going to faint. And things like brain fog, weakness, those kinds of things would trigger me to want to eat. Well, I do not experience lows in my blood sugars anymore because I'm fat adapted. I don't have the brain fog. I don't get tired unless I do something very physically exerting, like 5-mile hikes. So the last thing I kind of use right now is stomach grumbling. But come to find out, that is actually not a signal for hunger. I was very surprised about this. Our stomachs actually grumble all the time. We just can't hear it. So the gurgling in our stomach is actually air and liquids passing through. Air is because when we eat and drink, we swallow air and it has to get passed through our system and out, right? Liquids, water, fluids, those kinds of things. But when we eat, everything goes in there and our stomach is round, our intestines are round. It fills up the space. And so you can't hear anything because the food's in there. The sound waves don't go very far. But when our stomach and our intestines start to get empty, that gurgling noise gets very apparent because, well, it's hollow. And what happens when you knock on hollow things, it reverberates quite loudly. And that is what we're hearing when our stomach grumbles. All it means is we don't have food in our digestive tract or trace amounts. So thinking of it that way, I realized, okay, that truly isn't a signal for hunger. It just means I don't have food in my digestive tract. Okay, well, then what about things like maybe I need nutrients, maybe I need the proteins and things like that. In my own personal research and watching some of Dr. Sylvest's videos, I kind of discovered, actually, I still have a lot of Bank of Amanda to go. And if I'm fat adapted, I'm not experiencing lows, I'm not experiencing hunger really, I don't actually need to eat that much. Now, I'm not suggesting starvation of any way, shape, or form, because I will say when I first started this line of thinking, I really felt like I was struggling with eating less. Like I felt deprived. Like I ended up eating more, honestly, last week when I was doing this until I had an epiphany. And that epiphany was, versus looking at it as depriving myself of something, I changed my view and looked at it as, I just need to use what I have, which is a lot of energy still. I still have plenty of energy on my body. And the thing is our body recycles proteins, amino acids, and things like that. We don't just eat them and then defecate it all out. Our body recycles that. So no, I don't need to be consuming a crap ton of protein every single day because it's still in my system. Now this is different for every person, and I can only speak for myself personally what I should be doing. But I have found that thinking about it in the way of I just need to use what I have, I ended up eating less and still being satiated. Now there's a couple tricks too that I use to help with this because a lot of it's mental hunger, but I want to talk about that in just a second. Before I move on, the one thing I really truly want to stress is, and I learned this the hard way, and I hope you do not have to learn it the hard way either. Trying to decrease the amount of food we eat in the beginning when we are not fat adapted is the worst thing I could have done to myself. When I try to deprive myself of volumes of food and that satiation that I felt when I was still burning glucose and sugars for fuel in the beginning, well, I'm having those spikes up and down. It led to a binge every single time. That is why when I started carnivore this first time, it was 3 meals with snacks. I didn't worry about how much I was eating. I just worried that it was a carnivore food. That is vital. I've seen a lot of people struggle in the beginning because they're trying to get to 2 meals a day or OMAD, and they're trying fasting within like the first few weeks of doing carnivore. And that is just such a hard thing on the body. Again, this is Amanda's personal opinion, but if you're struggling with that, really kind of contemplate where you're at. Okay, so if hunger is not grumbling belly, it's not the brain saying I'm hungry, then what causes us to want to eat? Well, behavior. As I said earlier in the video, I learned to eat everything on my plate. Because I grew up this way, it has overridden my stop eating, you don't need any more energy mechanisms in my body. I learned eating sugar and candy and things like that gave me these little dopamine and serotonin highs that when I was having an emotional upset, eating made me feel better. Even if it was temporarily, it made me feel better. So I call that head hunger or emotional hunger, when we really aren't needing any nutrients, but we want food to get that little serotonin, that happy high, to make us feel better about whatever the situation is. And this can go from any kind of emotion: stress, sadness, happy, joy. All of these can trigger us to want to eat. I have experienced this wholeheartedly. Being happy, want to eat. Out with friends, want to eat. It's just a behavior that I've developed over my entire life. Hunger is everywhere. The past few weeks and months, I've really, especially with Rosie's death, I've been really isolating my head hunger, that emotional hunger that I experience. And for myself, I've discovered most of the time, like 98% of the time, when I'm hungry, I'm actually not hungry. I'm wanting a change in my emotional state. I'm stressed. I want to feel temporarily better. And I'm not even just talking about eating carbs and things, because I do still, at this point, 10 months, I get craving for carbs when I have very stressful points. Not so much anymore. It takes a pretty high threshold for me to want carbs, but just base hunger. I'm just talking about like go eat a steak, right? Because the thing is, again, I still have a lot of energy in my body, and I eat plenty of protein throughout the day to sustain me. Something that I've implemented to deal with this hunger and cravings and things is I now eat twice a day at set times. I eat breakfast, my first meal, between 10 and 11 in the morning, and then we eat dinner at 5. Pretty much spot on every time. I know if I experience hunger outside those windows, 98% of the time for me, it is just something emotional is going on. I'm wanting a change of state by eating. Or it's behavioral, that I've just learned to eat frequently a lot. But for myself specifically, I know it is just an emotional state at this point causing my hunger drive, because I know I'm going to eat twice a day, every single day, and I'm not going to miss a meal. I've implemented a handful of things to address the behavior and the habits around, am I eating too much? The first thing that I've been utilizing is journaling. When I have hunger strike, I sit down and assess, I introspect, something going on. Am I having an anxiety? And I'm not a journaler, so doing this is kind of big for me. I don't write a lot. I sit down, write out my emotions. I'm stressed because of whatever it is, okay? Getting it written out and seeing it helps me address it, and then I can have the conversation of what am I going to do about it? We know food's not going to help. That has helped a lot, I can say. The second thing I've been doing is using my Redmond's Salt Rock. I've heard so many people mention this about when they have hunger, just sucking a little bit on it, but let me tell you, I've been using it for like a week now. This thing is amazing. Just like 3 or 4 seconds sucking on it with a little bit of water, and I swear, boom, hunger gone. It's crazy, and it tastes good, honestly. The other thing I've been using is my LMNT Bridge drink. I like using that water because I drink it, take some sips, and that hunger disappears. Why? Because I'm putting more volume into my stomach. And something we haven't talked about that I want to mention really quick is there's actually 2 systems in our body that tell us when we're full. The first one is the ghrelin and leptin system. The second one, which is actually the secondary system, is the stomach stretch receptors. I used to eat until I was full. And I knew I was full because my stomach would be like, oh God, Amanda, stop eating. And I literally have stretched my stomach out. That sends a signal to the brain that says, hey, we're full, no more, no entry. But because it's a secondary system, what happens is by the time you've hit those stretch receptors, I've eaten too much. That's why the bridge drink helps. Stomach, add water, a little bit of stretch. Tells the body, yeah, you're not really hungry. A-okay, move on. The hunger pains pass, and I can easily make it to the next meal that I have planned without any struggle using that bridge drink. I like the LMNT in it just because of the salt, and I sweat, and we all know this by now. And the last thing is being intentional with eating. Scott and I have set up a narrow eating window. 10 to 11, around 5 o'clock for dinner, and we pretty much stick to that spot on anymore. I don't have to worry about what we're going to eat because that morning the conversation we have is, hey Scott, hey Amanda, what are we going to have for dinner? Steak, flanken steak, chicken wings, burgers. Like, we decide the meat gets set out. There is no option not to cook it because we've thawed it from the freezer, and I'm not throwing meat away. Be intentional. It has helped so much. Planning ahead, not leaving that room for error of like, hey, are you too lazy to cook? Yeah, I'm too lazy to cook. Okay, let's go out and get something or get something fast or, it's helped so much. All right, so to reiterate the whole thing, yes, I have been eating too much my entire life. Now I am learning that I do not have to eat that much. I know a lot of people are worried that I'm not eating enough, but let me tell you, I don't feel deprived. I don't feel like I'm starving in any way, shape, or form. And just remember, I'm fat adapted and I have a lot of Bank of Amanda deposits to use. And I tell you all this because I have struggled with having stalls and things like that. And this has helped so much get over and past it. A lot of it is really a mental change. I'm telling you guys, the last week I kept saying, Amanda, you should eat less. Amanda, you should eat less. And I swear I just wanted to eat my own arm and foot. And then I had an epiphany like Thursday or Friday last week, and I'm like, wait a minute. I know when I look at things as I'm being deprived, I just want it more. Every time I say I can't have cake, it's like I want cake even more. We want what we can't have. But versus I choose not to eat cake, that's empowering. And so looking at it from, again, the aspect of I have a lot of weight, I have a lot of energy on me, and I want to use that up. So I just naturally eat less. And the last thing is I cannot stress this enough. Please do not try to drop your food intake quickly. I have been doing this now a little bit more than 10 months, and it has taken me 10 months to get here for the volume that I'm eating. I do not want to see anybody go into a binge because if I had done this the first, honestly, few months, I know I would have binged. It just would have been too much for me to handle, too hard mentally on myself and physically on myself to do this. So I don't want anybody to listen to this and just think, hey, I've been on this 2 weeks and I'm just going to eat like a quarter of what I've eaten. Please don't do that. I want to see every one of you succeed. And this is what's working for me. This is what's helped me get past my stall. And I'm just sharing it because maybe it'll help someone else that's having the same problem. Anyways, if you made it this far, kudos to you. I appreciate every one of you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
I got it. Nope, don't got it.
Okay, restart it. I'm not a journaler. I don't journal. How do I say this? I don't write a lot. I'm not a journaler.